Hi, I'm Dr. John Chessare, the President and CEO of the GBMC healthcare system, and today I have the distinct honor and privilege in introducing our guest speakers for the event, Dr. Freeman and Mrs. Jaqueline Hrabowski. The Hrabowskis are icons in our community, and they embody the outstanding accomplishments of African Americans who continue to make a global impact on the advancement of science, math, equality, social justice, and the empowerment of all people, regardless of background. Jaqueline C. Hrabowski retired in 2009 as Vice President of Corporate Community Involvement at T. Rowe Price. Mrs. Hrabowski is currently an active community volunteer and advocate of mentoring and child development initiatives. A philanthropist and trustee of the ABLE Foundation, she is also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the Links Incorporated, and has received numerous awards, including being named one of Maryland's top 100 women. Our second speaker, Dr. Freeman A. Hrabowski, is president of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. He has been in this role since 1992. He is a consultant on science and math education to national agencies, universities, and school systems. He was named by President Obama to chair the President's Advisory Commission on Educational Excellence for African Americans. He also chaired the National Academy's committee that produced the report, Expanding Underrepresented Minority Participation, America's Science and Technology Talent at the Crossroads. His 2013 TED Talk highlights the 4 pillars of college success in science. Named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time in 2012, and one of America's best leaders by U.S. News & World Report in 2008, he also received TIAA-CREF's Theodore M. Hesburgh Award for Leadership Excellence, the Carnegie Corporation's Academic Leadership Award, and the Heinz Award for contributions to improving the human condition. More recently, he received the American Council on Education's Lifetime Achievement Award in 2018, the University of California, Berkeley's Clark Care Award in 2019, and the UCSF Medal from the University of California, San Francisco in 2020. UMBC has been recognized as a model for inclusive excellence by such publications as U.S. News, which for more than 10 years has recognized UMBC as a national leader in academic innovation and undergraduate teaching. Dr. Hrabowski's most recent book, The Empowered University, written with 2 UMBC colleagues, examines how university communities support academic success by cultivating an empowering institutional culture. Welcome to you both. We're so grateful for our time and excited to speak with you today. Our theme for Black History Month that we carried over from our Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration is Getting into Good Trouble, Restoring and Uniting Humanity, based on the mantra of the late Congressman John Lewis that encourages all of us to find a way to get in the way, whether it's speaking up, being an advocate, leading the way, being an ally, or doing something for the advancement of civil rights and social justice. So let me ask you both the first question. When was a time that you were advocating for something that you got into good, necessary trouble that left a lasting impact on you and others?
We have been talking about that question a lot, Jackie and I have. And I always tell the story of childhood experiences. We both do, actually. Mine is this, that I was sitting in the back of church in the middle of the week, not wanting to be there. My parents were placating me with the 2 things I love most, doing my math problems and eating. I love to eat, and I was eating M&Ms, the good kind with the peanuts. And all of a sudden, the minister there at the lectern said, if the children participate in this peaceful protest, this was in 1963, that all of America will know that even our children know the difference between right and wrong, and they will be able to go to better schools. And I looked up and said, who is that guy? And they said his name was Dr. Martin Luther King. I did end up protesting in a peaceful children's march in Birmingham in 1963. I was thrown in jail and spent a week there with other children. And it was a very difficult situation. But in the middle of the week, Dr. King came with our parents, and here we are, little kids. I'm 12, some are younger than me. And he said, what you do this day will have an impact on children who've not yet been born. And that did lead to other marches, the March on Washington, and then legislation that did make a difference. But it was a time for good trouble, good trouble. We were doing what David Thoreau said. We were saying the law was unjust of segregation and that we had the right to a better education. And that is my story. Jackie.
What a great example.
Thank you.
Well, as Freeman said, often, our childhood experiences are the things that leave a tremendous impact and impression upon us. And I remember growing up in rural Virginia with a huge family of, my dad was the oldest of 14. My mom was one of 15, so had lots of uncles and aunts around and family and friends. And it seemed as though, my parents were always called on to help out, to do things around. And as I got to be older, I guess I started questioning. I didn't think it was a bad question, but my dad and my parents, thought I was a bit rebellious then. So I would say, why is it that we have to be the ones always helping somebody or doing things for other people? I just felt that they were being used. And why can't you just stand up for yourself sometimes and say no, or let somebody else do it? And my dad, in his quiet way, looked at me and said, because we can. Because we can. And so that has had an impact, I guess, on me for how you face and deal with issues that you see them, that you need to challenge them and ask those brave questions about why is this happening? And if they are, what can we do about it? Because we can. So I've learned that, you give it all that you can do, but when you have the ability, the talents, the skills, or whatever else it takes to make things better.
Absolutely. What a great way to live your life, using your own strengths and talents to help others. So you both know that we're in healthcare here and we're in the middle of the pandemic. And I want to ask you, I know that you've both been very vocal about the development of the Moderna vaccine by a Black woman, Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett. How has this accomplishment helped to recognize the work of an African-American woman? And how do we continue to offer opportunities for African-American women to achieve prominent roles in our society?
Jackie.
I think that a part of recognizing excellence in others and nurturing all of that is a part of what this is all about. As a student of UMBC, we're certainly proud of Kizzmekia and her accomplishments and believe in her. And because of that belief in her, we certainly participated in the trials. And now, having done that, others kind of look to us as role models. And so my message, I think, to people, women in general especially, is that, you need to be prepared and you need to take the chances and the risks and be that role model who others look up to and kind of depend on you for direction. Because there have been many people who've said, well, Jackie, if you can do it, I'll try it too. So it kind of creates this belief in self, and also gives you confidence in knowing that with that you can help others also come along.
I would say that, first of all, my colleagues and I at UMBC are thrilled that Dr. Corbett Al-Kizmikia has done this. I remember when we recruited her at age 17 from a rural town in North Carolina to be in the Meyerhoff Scholars Program. And the point I would make is that preparing students to lead, to serve and to lead is a critical part of any kind of success. And in her case, it gives me goosebumps. She's the first Black woman in the world to create a vaccine. Now, the message there is this. Most of us have never thought about the possibility of a Black woman doing that. And as many scientists as we've been producing at UMBC, we'd never said, why don't we think about perhaps helping a young Black to do this? Well, the point is, there are questions we haven't even asked before. But all we can do is to prepare people to do what Jackie said, to be excellent and to want to serve and to lead. And it's so important for girls of all races to see somebody like Dr. Corbett, because then they will say, I want to be like her. I want to create a vaccine one day. I want to be excited about science. And because she did it, it means that barrier has been broken and others will do it as time goes on.
Fabulous. Thank you. So in addition to celebrating and recognizing the accomplishments of your alumna, Dr. Corbett, you were both part of the COVID-19 trials, I understand. And you've also been very active in the campaign addressing vaccine hesitancy among underrepresented populations and specifically African Americans. What message do you have today for those groups who may be hesitant to take the vaccine?
I love hearing Jackie talk to some of her girlfriends who have been very reluctant, and these are educated women. So Jackie, why don't you go first?
Well, the first, I always start with the fact that we know the person who has created this vaccine, which gives us all, ability to know that we're at the table. And so I also have to help understand that people do have their reasons and hesitancies. And so you can't kind of put people down and say you shouldn't, because people have their feelings. And so I try to let them know that, first you follow by your science, then you talk to your doctor. And make sure that, your doctor is involved in all of this for your good health, because they'll say, oh, I have this ailment, talk to your doctor. And then follow your conscience. And I said, so it's not so much just about you, but, who are you around? Who might be affected by this? And so with that and the fact that I've done it and I'm still alive and well and hopefully will continue to thrive, and you can too. But so just give yourself time, think on it, pray on it, and hopefully you'll come to reach a decision that's going to be right for you and the people that you love, because that's what this is about.
Sure. It's so true. The fact is that people have a reason, particularly people of color and Black people have great reasons for being reluctant to take this vaccine. I grew up in Birmingham, and so all of my life, I was hearing about the Tuskegee experiment. I've seen the grotesque photos. I know what this country did. As much as I love our country, of how we allowed these men to suffer. And so to anybody who says, well, it's been done before in a negative way, people have not been true, we have to say, but this is a different time. We still have progress to make in this country, but we've made progress. And when we can talk about a Black woman who created this vaccine with her team there at NIH, and that vaccine, the technology is also used in Pfizer, for example. And then when we can talk about people on the manufacturing side, I'm delighted that another young doctor, PhD, Dr. Darian Cash, is a Meyerhoff UMBC alum who went on and got PhD and postdoc from UCLA, and he's one of the chief scientists at Moderna. So you've got people of all races involved. And then the Center for Vaccine Development downtown at University of Maryland has people in healthcare of all races who helped us in the trial to go through it and were so considerate in working with us. So we need to understand that there are people of all backgrounds involved in this process. And Jackie said it well, if not us, then who? I mean, we're not just doing this for ourselves. We're doing it for all the people around us. And I know that people of color and other people care about their loved ones. So it's not just about my health, it's about everybody around me. Very important to keep emphasizing that fact.
Thank you. And from the side of healthcare providers, thank you so much for raising the importance of physicians in particular stepping up, yes, and serving all peoples of all races, and being comfortable, acting as sort of the guiding light, helping people get their questions answered, and helping them reach an informed decision about whether or not to take the vaccine. So thank you for raising that as well. So building on this theme, as you think of the history of distrust of the African American community when it comes to healthcare and science, and we have other examples here in the city of Baltimore of that in our history. But what accomplishments in this space, beyond Dr. Corbett's and the ones you've already mentioned, should be recognized and remembered on a day like today in Black History Month?
You know, I will, as an educator, I'm always proud of my students. Everybody knows I get passionate in talking about them. And so, people talk about the Hopkins and the Henrietta Lacks situation, and Hopkins has stepped up to say, no, that was not right. And they've been working to do things about it. I know the president and others, but they have been accepting our students. And Dr. Crystal Watkins is an MD, PhD in neuroscience, who is on the faculty there and working in healthcare in this area. The health commissioner of Baltimore City is one of my graduates, another. And Dr. Zarasa, Letitia Zarasa is the health commissioner. And you see it. So you see people of all races, including these Black women whom I just mentioned, who are in medicine, who are making a difference. And you'll find larger and larger numbers of physicians of color and other healthcare workers of color and others in general who are there in hospitals and other settings to support people, to give them advice, to encourage them to make sure we do the right thing. So we are seeing greater representation. And that is progress. With all the challenges, we have to recognize the progress that's been made in that way.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So as you reflect on the many African Americans who came before you, or that you've been honored to work alongside, who has made a lasting impact and helped you as you made your decision on your own career paths that have led to such phenomenal accomplishments of each of you?
Jackie.
Well, I guess I'll start with my just experiences and training as a teacher. And so when I was growing up, as I said, I was in rural Virginia. I'd never seen a Black doctor, Black scientist. In fact, the folks that I knew were either preachers, teachers, or farmers. And so this notion that you can't be what you can't see. So when it's hard for you to have role models around you, it's hard to think about the possibilities of, who you might become, or even that there are others in the world who are achieving and accomplishing things, which is why I think having a Sunday school teacher who came back to me to teach from Fifth University and Phi Beta Kappa, and she would teach my Sunday school class, and I just saw, I guess, somebody in her that I wanted to be. And so that's why I went ahead and built my career around that. And so the message for me from all of that was that you need to try to uplift and support people and be that mentor and role model to help people see, connect with others who are doing well, who are achieving, and who look just like you. You can do this. There's greatness in you. And so when we start with that as a mentoring premise, those are the kinds of things that inspire people, not just those that they read about in books, that's good as well, but they have to be encouraged to do all of that. And having somebody there by your side, coaching and guiding and saying to you, you can do this, I think is important.
So I love what she says. The fact is that I would say my parents, and always working to help people in the community, just as Jackie's did. My high school principal, who was a math teacher, who would come in and put math problems on the board that nobody could solve. And if you could finally solve it, he'd give you a dime. And I loved getting that dime because I could then buy Tootsie Rolls and give them out to my friends and be popular, even as a math nerd. So I always loved math. But I would tell you, and this is the truth, that going to our beloved Hampton, when Jackie and I met there, and she got the highest score on the first calculus test. I thought I was the smartest kid, and it turned out she was much smarter than me. And I said, I'm going to marry that kid one day, and I did. And of all the people who inspire me, my wife. And we just celebrated our 50th anniversary. And she inspires me because she gives of herself, not only to our family, but to so many others. And she always strives for excellence. Mm-hmm. And that is, for me, as powerful a moment of inspiration as one can have, when you can see excellence every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's fabulous. What a great story. 50 years.
Yeah, we got married as teenagers, and we're very blessed. We just celebrated. Yeah, it's great.
That's tremendous. Thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
So what advice do you each have for those who want to make a difference and get into some good trouble, but they're a little afraid? They're afraid and they're worried about the risk, or they're not sure of where to start. What advice would you give those folks?
Jackie, talk about all the people at T. Rowe Price whom you mentored in other places first, would you?
I would say, again, going back to my notion about mentoring and supporting and helping others, sometimes it's just kind of making the connections and giving them some advice and guidance that we consider as common sense, but that they've not experienced it, they've not been around it, or to be encouraged by it, they can't see the possibilities. And so sometimes the questions aren't easy questions to ask, but they need to ask the questions. But you can do it in a way that is not antagonistic. And I think that's one of the things we have to do with young folks to help temper some of the issues and the questions that they have, to guide them about coming up with solutions that are win-win for everybody. So the mentoring, serving as role models, because people watch what you do more than listen to what you say. And so how you deal with people, how you make relationships, how you manage to come to win-win situations, and having everybody remain with their dignity and tact and all of that, are lessons that people learn from you. And so that would be, I guess, my advice to people, and that is to reach out, build relationships, and get people to understand where your challenges are and how you want to overcome them, and just seek advice. Am I on the right track? Ask those kinds of questions. Mm-hmm.
Let me start with that notion of seeking advice. People who succeed understand they cannot make it by themselves. People who succeed learn to develop thick skin. Each of us needs feedback. And the feedback may not always be happy talk. It may not be simply, you're doing great. I find that I learn the most when people say, you did this well, but you can do this better. And so constructive feedback, seeking constructive feedback, but being willing to listen. And it doesn't mean you have to take all the advice, but take it seriously. And then, of all the things I could say and what we say at UMBC, being your best self in everything that you do, the hard work, the grit that we talk about there, and the idea of resilience. You fall down and you get back up. Finding people you admire and saying, would you be my mentor, or can you give me advice about what I need to do? And most important, learning how to speak the truth in such a way that people will hear it. This is what Jackie was saying that I think is so wise. You can hit somebody in the head with something in the wrong way and they don't even hear it because of the manner in which you say it. but you can speak the truth and do it in a way that people will say, well, let me think about that. And I think that is a part of what we have to do in our country right now, as we talk about what works well and what does not, and the fact that Black Lives Matter. It's true, all lives matter. But right now, why are we saying Black Lives Matter? It's because, quite frankly, there have been so many instances where they didn't, whether it's the Tuskegee experiment or other challenges that have come along. And somehow what we learn as we have seen what's been happening in our country is that we have so much in common as people of all races. And the more we understand each other's perspectives and the more we work to be our best selves, the more we as a community, as a society can move ahead for the sake of our children.
Very good.
What great advice. It should start with us all reaching out, listening,
Yes.
and developing those respectful relationships. Yes. We all have to do it. Thank you. That is great advice. So we're down to our last question. Thank you so much for putting up with all of our questions.
Sure.
How should we continue to celebrate the accomplishments of African Americans, not just in the month of February, but as an ongoing practice? We should be recognizing everyone's accomplishments, but particularly people whose accomplishments have not been recognized. How can we make this not just be about Black History Month?
Mm-hmm.
Jackie, you want to go first?
Again, that teacher experience in me would say that you find opportunities for people to tell their story. And everybody has, a story around which somebody can learn something from. And so you have to just make time for that, build opportunities for that so that it doesn't become a once, as you say, once a year kind of opportunity. There are ongoing reasons or occasions when this is to occur. And it doesn't have to be always about certainly Black people. But if you make that a part of sharing our stories, everybody will get a chance to be able to do that. And then it doesn't become an isolated 1 month activity where, just one group of people would be highlighted or showcased. It's a time for all of us to show how we have excelled, how we've demonstrated something unique, or have maybe gone out of our way to be kind, or to consider. There are just so many ways. I find that with children. You have to find ways to make them feel good. And so even if it's, boy, you did a great job of tying your shoe today, Johnny, to that person, that's important and that's significant. And so you take that story and you use it with adults and find a way to put the spotlight on them. Mm-hmm. And that kind of raises everybody up to want to do that or to be like that. Mm-hmm.
We are Southerners and we love stories. Americans, human beings, love stories. We Southerners think we can really weave a story in a special way. And I want us to tell our stories. The African American story is the American story. That as we think about having the light shining on African Americans, we also want the light to shine on all of us, of all races, and to see how we are connected in different ways. If you think about the Baltimore County area, there's so many wonderful stories from people of older generations that need to be told, from people of all races, and for our children so they can understand what we've gone through. It still has not been celebrated enough that in 1920, women got the right to vote. It's a powerful story. So many stories of getting children to talk about when did your grandmother or great grandmother get the right to vote, and what's that story? I tell the story that even when the right to vote came in 1920, my grandmother literally had to take the Alabama literacy test in the early 1960s. And so these stories are integrated in different ways, you see, and we need to know those stories. And finally, I would say, looking at the progress we've made in the country, it is a big deal that we have our first Black woman vice president. That is a huge statement about, not just about her, but about America. Mm-hmm. That Americans of all races voted for this woman to become the vice president. And she's a woman of Asian background and Black background. I am delighted that the first president of MSNBC is a young Black woman, a graduate of my alma mater, of Hampton, of Jackie's in my alma mater. It's a wonderful story. The first Black to get the top award in neuroscience in the world a UMBC graduate who's a professor at Duke now, Dr. Kafri Zarasa. I mean, these are great stories. And so we must tell the stories of those who are like first of their type, but also the stories of people who have come from a long way. Let me give you one example. Come from a long journey. Dr. Thelma Daly, who is in Baltimore County, first Black woman to head big counseling groups, not only in this country, but in the world. African-American woman who lives in Baltimore County. There are all these wonderful stories that we need to celebrate and document for posterity. It says this is a great country. Yes, success is not final, but it's a great country. And as we celebrate African American History Month, we are celebrating America. That is the point.
Great. What fabulous advice. Well, your accomplishments speak for themselves. I want to thank you for spending this time with me. The joy that you have brought to this conversation is almost leaping out of the video. And I have recognized that. And I am just so grateful to you as leaders in our community. Baltimore is a fabulous place with many challenges. I am 100% sure if each of us follows the guidance you just laid out, we will make Baltimore a truly, truly, truly fabulous place to live and work. So thank you so much for your time today.
We're delighted.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Right. And I'll be glad when my wife comes back to Baltimore to help me, as she's having her grandson right now down in South Carolina.
We better check the geometry homework.
That's right. That's what she's working on right now.
Make sure he passes this test.
You know what? Let me just say, as I say to my students and colleagues, keep hope alive. I love what you all do there at GBMC. You're keeping hope alive, Dr. Chessare. And I want to thank you for what you do for our community and for celebrating African American History Month. Thank you.
And I want you to know that, the adage, talk is cheap. We at GBMC are working hard to truly be a part of the solution. We've moved into the city at the Helping Up mission, and we understand that those that have been given much have much to give.
That's right.
And we are grateful for this time with you today, but we're also grateful to be in team with you to make the situation better. So thank you again, and I hope to see you at GBMC sometime. We'd love to take you on a tour. We don't want you here if you're sick. We want you to be healthy. If you are sick, come on over. But we'd love to just show you around. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks so
you.
much. Thanks.
Take care now. Bye-bye.